Yeah, but I gotta say though, with Ahsoka, it actually, even though I was racing the clock when it was over, I was a little sad. I was like, damn, I wasn't ready for that to be over yet. Like I actually feel like these last two episodes have been really good.
Yeah.
With this one actually being a really good world builder. Like I'm more invested in Star Wars than ever because
Well,
of that.
yeah, and I don't know if you saw my comment
It,
that
the
yeah,
galaxy, whatever.
yeah, they don't really ever have to come back because um if they bring him back, he's supposed to be such a a badass character that um he kind of conflicts with the sequels and what exists there, right? Like his if he was as badass as he is and he came back, then we would have heard about him in those sequels, right? So, and we would have heard about Ezra, and we would have heard about Ahsoka, and all these other characters. But if they stay off in another galaxy far, far away, we have our opportunity to expand that universe and tell the stories we want to tell without bumping into each other.
And also go forwards and backwards. So it's like a
Right.
literal side step, a lateral shift. And I think that's actually kind of brilliant.
Yeah, I read some article and I wish I had read it better or remembered it better. But there was this whole thing about how there was actually some like greater evil in the universe, and that at some point, something that the Sith did actually defeated it. And so the Sith aren't even the worst thing in the universe. There's this thing out there that's even worse. And so like that story they can tie into all kinds of stuff they can tie into.
Yeah.
Um so it's cool. So I'm excited to see that. But since we're already talking about it, I mean we can just jump into Ahsoka. Um where did this one open up? What was the first scene on this one? Because I watched it a couple of days ago.
Oh man, the first scene was yeah. So it's literally the hyperspace situation.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
uh Ahsoka talking to the robot guy. And that's where he says a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, because they're going back and forth on like, did Sabine make the right choice? And he's kind of defending Sabine and saying that was her only choice. And then so at first he's like, do you want me to tell you a story? And she's like, no. And then she's talking about Sabine, but then since she's not really feeling him defending Sabine, she's like, just tell me a story. And then he starts with the far, far away thing. And then we flip to uh the Morgan Elspeth,
Mm-hmm.
uh hyperspace landing, meeting the witches, and we go from there.
Yeah, okay. Um the Yeah, so the witches were a trip because they obviously had been there for a while also. I don't remember in Rebels, I don't remember if they went with him or not. Like I don't remember who kind of made that escape when they did Rebels, the end of Rebels. I know that it was sort of a trap that Ezra set up, right? He was trapping Thrawn and effectively kidnapping him to who knows where, right? Like that's kind of the whole point of this show is they didn't know where he was up until just now. Um, and and so that was a bit of a shock. I didn't remember the Night Sisters being with him or not, but they must have been. Um, but that was a trip. There's a couple of cool little gotchas in there for those of us that are a little nerdier too. One of the Night Sisters is an actress named Claudia Black.
Yeah.
She was in the Stargate TV series near the end of that show. She's a video game voice actress for a ton of stuff. Um, and she's been around. She's super cool. And then do you watch The Expanse, right?
Yes, I did.
The really kind of gruff guy that was, kind of pissed off all the time.
Yeah, totally.
He's the dude in the gold mask.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Ah,
So I found that out today, and I was like, dude, that's dope, because like I like him a lot. So to see him get a little more um, exposure and do some more stuff, I think is super cool.
Yes.
Um,
Amos. Yeah, he's got chill. Yeah, he's
yeah,
great.
yeah, Amos. But okay, so they got there this, and then so they land, and there's a whole army of stormtroopers, right, when that thing lands. And
Oh,
what I really dug is that the stormtroopers looked a little jacked up, right? Like they weren't all bright and shiny and polished, right? They'd been through some shit.
yeah.
And I think what I read, because I wasn't following the timeline exactly, I think it's been like 9 years.
Okay.
So they've been there for a while. And that's the other thing, that article that I was telling you about um, kind of suggested that if they looked that rough after 9 years, they may have been fighting against something during that 9 years also, right?
Mhm.
So there's very possibly maybe even a lot more to the story than we know um, still to go. But what what did you think of Big Mr. Thrawn showing up?
All right. So exactly. So I've heard this name Thrawn all the way back to like I want to say 98, 99. Like legitimately,
Yeah,
I've heard this
yeah,
name. I've never seen him depicted in anything. Like I've never heard his voice, nothing until today. So there's been a lot of buildup, a lot. So now that I've seen him, I'm like, okay, he doesn't have any powers, but he's definitely a smart dude. He's calculating. He's actually the ultimate INTJ. Like that's what he is. Like he literally can his brain really is what is
yes,
his
for sure.
thing. So I have a wait and see approach, but I like the way he thinks, whether it's like, when she's like, don't you want to send more squads to like back up, the mercenaries? He's like, yeah, we've lost some people. It doesn't matter whether they live or die. Like he's
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
or when he's like, okay, we're gonna assume Ahsoka is alive because she's a Jedi until otherwise. So he's just a very calm, calculating, but I also feel like probably sadistic person, unlike the Cleons, one of the Cleons from Foundation. So
mhm.
I like it. I think that the actor himself seems very at home. No part of it feels cosplay or forced. It feels very natural. And again, I just think that this show is a great gateway for those blasphemous heretics who have not watched the Clone Wars or Rebels. Like, it's going to force us to go back in.
Yeah, and the guy that's playing Thrawn is actually the guy that voiced Thrawn in Rebels. So he has always been, as far as the characterization of Thrawn outside of books and things like that, he's always been Thrawn, which I think is pretty cool. Um, but yeah, he doesn't fluster, right? Like, for him to be where he is, yes, he got a little outsmarted by Ezra, obviously, which is hard to do. Um, but he takes everything as, okay, this is what happened. Now we move on to the next step, right? Like he's always, even if he's not necessarily a step ahead, he's ready to take the next step when he needs to. So he's super dope. And then I like too that, for a minute there early on, it felt like Morgan Elsbeth was maybe like a big bad, and she's kind of not. She's really an underling to him at this point, right?
Which
Um,
is true. Even
yeah,
the like or the sister Dark Knight sisters, they everyone seems to defer to him, and
yes,
to me is like that. Also, it says a lot. Like when these powerful people are still like, yes, we are at your service. Like, okay, all
yeah.
right.
Well, yeah, because I mean, think about it, he's one dude that led an entire army to the middle of nowhere, and 9 years later, they're still following pretty much blindly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's who he is, and that's impressive in its own right. Um, and then I like that, on top of that too, like, yeah, he's not a good guy, but at the same time, like he's smart enough to know when he can and can't keep his word. So with Sabine, he was like, sure, go on. He's like, here's a couple of weapons, here's your lightsaber, good luck. and sent her on her way when, I mean, he could have killed her, he could have imprisoned her, he could have done anything he wanted. But he upheld the bargain that what's his name made, and then sent
Lawful.
back. Yeah. But what I like about that too is that he upheld it, and then as soon as she was gone, he was like, "Cool, I said she could go after him. I didn't say she was gonna, it was gonna be easy. Go ahead and go kill her."
Yes.
So I mean, he's got some scruples, and at the same time, he wants to win, and he knows what it takes to win. So, um, I think the next episode will be interesting too, because we're gonna have to have a face off. I'm super curious about, is it Balin Skull? Is that his name?
Balin Skull, yes.
Um, I'm really interested to see where he falls, because he's not evil.
I think
He's a mercenary.
I think he's an anti-hero. And I think that he's trying, like he said, I want to end this cycle,
Yeah.
So it's just a shame knowing that he, as the actor passed away, because like he's actually favorite presence in the show. Like as far as like there's something about him on the screen. Like he actually has a Vader-esque vibe to him. Just his stature, his outfit, even the red saber and the way he fights. Like he's badass. And I want to see him do whatever the hell he's going to do in this new world. So recast, like, well, they have to recast. Like whoever they recast.
Or he dies. I mean, it's the only other thing, right? The character has to die, because how do you recast him? I mean, do you Vaderize him too, right? Mess him up enough that you can put him in some kind of outfit and he can be played by anybody at that point. But yeah, that is a huge bummer, because he's a great casting for it, great actor for it, great look. Just, I mean, even if you took away the fighting and everything, just like the beard, the size, just everything, he's imposing, and he's so good for it. So I don't know what you do with him, but I don't know what they're supposed to do with him. They still have a couple episodes left. Anything could happen with him. There was an interesting theory out there that was fan theory, and it definitely leaves a lot of holes, so it's probably doesn't hold a lot of weight. But some people were saying that the girl, the white-haired one, could potentially grow up to be what's her name from the sequels, Captain Phasma. And the only, the biggest downside there is she would somehow have to like break away from the Force, right? Because Phasma wasn't a Force user as far as we ever saw.
That would be lame.
Yeah, and I mean, it's fun to think about, but
of the sequel, like she did nothing. She's like, you traitor, and then dies in the fucking ship. Like so lame.
I will. I mean, that comes back down to many of the problems that the sequels had, and just in their general planning. Like, I've said it before. I think I don't have a problem with even really any one of the sequels. It's just the fact that they didn't work together, and that was poor planning. But it would be really I think it would be really corny for that to be what they do. So I hope they don't. But at the same time, I'm curious what they are going to do with her character, because she seems angry, but also not super evil either. Like it's like this weird gray area with a lot of these characters, where I can almost see if they're going to set up a bigger evil in this galaxy that they're in, that we're going to have to kind of bring these people together, Ezra and Ahsoka and Thrawn, as to work together to fight whatever it is they have to fight. They don't have to do that. They could definitely stay enemies, but Thrawn, like I said, looking at the state of his army and the state of the things that he has, he's been up against something. So there's more going on there than we've seen, I think.
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, yeah. Every time we talk about it, we talk about how many episodes are left. I just get a little more bummed because I'm like, you can't like I feel you can't tell enough story that I want in the amount of episodes left, which is a good thing. I mean, leave me wanting season 2, leave me wanting season 3. Um, but it's rough. It's unfair. Like I want more.
Yeah. No, I'm happy. I mean, even the size, the like seeing that Imperial cruiser just show up was like such a moment.
Mhm.
Uh, it was just like, yes. I mean, for me, I don't know, I like seeing that might on the screen.
Yeah,
It
and
was
if you ever do go back and watch Rebels, his cruiser, I don't remember what it is about it that is special, but it's called the Chimera. Like his cruiser is a little more cool than the average cruiser. So
art.
um
Maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
yeah, I'm super stoked for next week. I think next week, uh, I think we're at the point where we have to at least see the face off between. Um,
wait, does Ezra
um,
have a saber, or or Sabine has Ezra's saber?
I believe she has his saber. I don't think he has one. Um, so I mean, that's another reason that one of Skull or the girl may have to kick it, right? And to be fair, Ahsoka has two, and she always has, but um curiously, in a few fights in the earlier part of the season, she fought with only one a few times. So it's very possible she could just hand one of hers off to Ezra also. Um, and I it'll be interesting to see what they do with Ezra because he seems like he reminds me of Kenobi in the original movies, right? Like kind of just a hermit. It's kind of like, yeah, I don't really do that shit anymore, he's kind of been out there surviving and that's been enough. Um, and I don't think that's going to stay the case, obviously. But I think we're due for a face off between at least Sabine and the two bad guys. If not Ahsoka, did Ahsoka drop out of? She wasn't even actually really in the episode, right? She didn't show up at the end.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy. It's her show, but like she's in it for
yeah.
all of 3 seconds.
Which I'm okay with. I think it's cool. I think it makes that stuff interesting. So, I don't mind.
Same. Like I told you, like Attack on Titan for season 2, like there's whole episodes where like Aaron, Mikasa, and Armin don't even show up. Like it was all Reiner and all of them somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So that shit. Yeah.
So,
Cool.
so yeah. So I'm excited. What do we say? 2 episodes left. So there's a lot of story to tell. So we'll see what shakes, but I'm ready for it. Um. So, all right. Well, then the next thing up, you want to talk about turtles?
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
All
So
right.
let's jump into it. Okay.
Yeah.
So turtles. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen of the podcast, I think it is no secret that for as nice and I think, pretty positive minded I am as a person, for some reason, comedy is usually not my jam. It's not what I go for, the kiddie stuff. Um, this Turtles movie has had lots of buzz, and I think it had like a 7% Rotten Tomatoes score. So I'm like, you know what? I wanted to see the theater, and when Pete, what's up, Pete? When Pete said that it was on Paramount Plus, I was like, hell yeah! So I watched it today, and I will say, as the non-comedy person that I am, I liked it. I liked it. Actually, I really think that like Seth Rogen, like you are winning my respect because clearly I think you're graduating from on-screen talent to behind the scenes dude, and I love that. It's almost like you're the Henry Winkler of like the naughties or whatever, not the naughties, like the aughts or whatever. Like you're moving into a different role now because this is really good. All right, so let me get into why I loved it. So first of all, I think it's cool how the Gen Z world has like ushered in this new kind of art style. I think it was Spider-Verse that, in my opinion, that kind of started it.
Yes, for
But
sure.
I think that this movie is taking that baton and running with it. So it's just a new visual feast for the eyes, and it's somewhere between animation and real, and it just makes things feel more visceral and immediate. Um, I think I'll start there because I want this to be like a volleyball thing. So I'm passing the ball back to you, and we can go back and forth.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat for sure. Like the animation style, I think, um, you see animation shift every, I don't know, 10 or 15 years or so, right? When we were kids, the Robotechs and the Transformers and the GI Joes all had a pretty, realistic look. And then it kind of shifted away for a while. They got really blocky in like the 90s. Some stuff got a little crazy. Um, and then, it started to kind of shift back to semi-realistic. Um, but I kind of hope this shift, it doesn't apply to everything. Like you can't just make every show look like this. And so maybe it really only works for the movies, although I believe they're going to make a series out of this
Well,
movie on Paramount Plus. But side note, everything Ninja Turtles is on Paramount Plus right now. Um, but um, I think it's really cool. I think it, for animation, it has to change. Like if it always looked the same, it would get old. And like I said, some things are best for that. Like if you're going to make a GI Joe cartoon, another one, you kind of just want them to look like people. GI Joe are people. You can mess around with it a little bit, but it is what it is. Um, but the animation style in this is super cool. I love that they even snuck in like an actual cut of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So like
yeah,
for all this animation, they had this one like pure live action scene in there. That was kind of neat. And I like there are things that I didn't like about the origin because I've been a Turtles fan for so long. And I think I've talked about it before. Like I have the original um, uh, graphic novel downstairs, and so like I'm a fan, and so changing their origin a little bit, I didn't love as much, but I got over it. I mean, you have to get over it. It's the way the story's being told, so sack up and ride along. Um, but yeah, I mean, once I got past that, I love the fact that it really is them young. Like we see their first fight, right? Like their first fight. Growing up when we had the live action movie, the first fight they have in that, they've already been doing this for a while. Like we see them beat the living hell out of everybody and they're super badass and all that. Here we definitely see them struggle. Um, the only other downside to it that I can think of is they introduced so many of the mutant characters right here, right now, that you can't like sneak them in later. You can't really introduce, Bebop and Rocksteady later or anything like that. We just have this big gang of mutants out there now, which is fine. I mean, hell, it's the name of the movie. It's called Mutant Mayhem, right? So it works. But telling this story the way that they told it, with them being the young kids finding their way, meeting a very different April, which I think was kind of cool too. Not just appearance wise, but just in who she is too. Like in most of the iterations of April O'Neil, she's pretty tough. And this April is not. Like she wants to be like this is kind of like these are all the characters before they are who they are. So they want to be the people they're going to be or that we've seen before, but they're not there yet. And I thought that was cool. I love that she pukes everywhere. It's freaking
that
hilarious.
that was okay. So one of the feedback that I got from people was that they actually couldn't stop laughing. And I remember watching the movie as it was going. I was like, this is cool. This is cool. I'm smiling. But when you actually like get that flashback to when she, puked at the school and how it turned to a TikTok and everything, I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
first straight up. I laughed out loud. I was actually laughing. So what I liked about the movie was like it felt almost Guardians-esque in that there was heart, because I think anyone can relate to the idea of missing out and wanting to be part of like society and wanting to be accepted. And that's a universal thing. So, all I know of the Turtles is literally just that late 80s, late 80s,
Yeah.
like show. So Rocksteady and Bebop were always bad guys. So when you see Rocksteady and Bebop and then all the other ones, right? Like I did see them as kind of like I was surprised. Like I thought, okay, I can see I forget his name, but he was the gecko dude. Like I could
Mondo Gecko.
Mondo, yes, Mondo, who
Paul
was the
Rudd.
ultimate ENFP, by the way. But anyway, I'll keep going. So I knew he was going to turn, but I thought Rocksteady and Bebop were going to be villains. So the fact that the whole rogues gallery, except for like the fly dude, like actually became like good was like, wow. Like, see, this is teaching good like human messaging too, because it's like, no, like let's come together. Like Splinter, like not all humans are bad, and if humans, it's all misunderstanding. If they just see, if people just see the right situation and understand what you're about, we can change. We don't always want to milk you, which I think was a hilarious running joke about the milk.
Yes, yes. And then to actually use it at the end was even even funnier.
The Milk Master
Yeah.
2000, whatever, on the machine.
Yeah.
Um, but like, and then like Ice Cube himself, like I could tell he was actually having fun with the role, because like he was just so funny with it, and all his little like, I'm gonna stomp your city, or like from the back, or like just he was just funny, man. Like I just okay, I'm gonna keep going. So I have to say the movie won me over with the Attack on Titan references. They talk about Attack on Titan twice, dude.
Yep.
The
Yep.
Donatello even had a light voice, so he was totally Ermin. Like Ermin's the plan guy, right? I'm getting chills. So when Leonardo, okay, I'm gonna say it now. Leonardo, okay, first of all, Leonardo, I've always been a Leonardo fan. Okay,
Yep.
always
Yep.
from the team. So I was happy that they finally gave him back that leader role again, because I feel like in the movies, first movie, it was more about Raphael, and which is usually the case
Yep.
because he the bad boy, the like Wolverine versus Cyclops, right? But no, they actually were true to all the characters. Like Leonardo was a bit nerdy, but he was the leader. Donatello was the Ermin. Michelangelo was just funny and actually kind of cute, but like he was
Yeah.
just, and then Raphael was just like big and aggro, and I like that. Like I see the original cartoon, they all look the same, but you could only tell by like the color. But I
Yeah.
feel like in cartoon, I'm sure other iterations, you actually see the different differences. But I
Yeah.
like the designs of this one. But going back to the Attack on Titan, so the fact that Armin Donatello freaked out about it, and then Leonardo towards the end is like he's appealing to everyone's like strengths. He's like, you are like you're the plan guy. Like you've seen all these comics, you know what to do. And he goes, that's right. Their weakness is in the neck. Like, yo, I was yeah, that was when I was like, you know what? All praises to this movie. And I don't have any kids. If I had kids, I'm sure like they might like it, and I'd put it on all the time. They could watch it whenever they wanted. Like it's just it was a really feel good movie. We don't know what happened to Fly Guy though. Like, I was hoping he would just show up in the crater as a human, but whatever. And then I liked the after credit scene, or no, there are after credit scenes, but I like the fact that yes, they saved a certain villain at the
Yep.
end. Good, because if they start with him, it's like, where do you go? So it was
Yeah.
good, like start with somebody else and then go to like that dude. Like that was cool.
Yeah. I wish that I had a better idea of exactly what they did with Baxter Stockman. I mean, did he die in the beginning?
Yeah.
Oh, he did die. Okay.
He's
That escaped me a little bit, and that bums me out because he's a classic villain from the comics, or from the cartoons. I mean, obviously you have Shredder out there. You've got if you go big, you've got Krang.
I,
There's a few other ones, but the Rat King, there's guys out there. But that, like I said, that was kind of my complaint, that they dumped all of these characters in that would have been great villains as it went on. Now, if they're going to turn it into a series, it's probably very easy to make them, badish guys, but not like super villain bad guys, like they can still go out there and rob stuff. One thing that I thought was interesting is that the turtles, they're actually criminals. Like when they went on their shopping list and stuff, like they stole everything. Like I was like, they didn't even like leave money. Like I was like, they just stole shit. They like cut into cars. They like destroyed property, stole stuff, and got out. And I was like, maybe
that
not the
kind
best message there.
feel like the zeitgeist lately is a bit more on that, like, like socialist tip. Like I just feel
Yeah,
just well, let's take what we want. Like, and it's not greedy, it's just we're trying to survive,
yeah, for sure, for sure. Like, and the way that Splinter saw the world and the way that they were raised, there's no other way for them to do it, right? Other than to do something cutesy where they say, "Hey, we took X, Y, and Z," and leave an envelope somewhere, somebody can grab it, and it's enough money. Which I think I've seen them do in other iterations of the show, but um, it's fine. It just made me laugh. I was like, they're gonna be heroes, but they're not the best, like society wise. Like they're not following all the rules. Um, and that's fine. Again, it's a cartoon and whatever. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, it's a lot of fun. I do think, like, I laughed when I watched it. My kids laughed when I watched it. I do think, had I watched it in a theater full of people, I can see how it would have been a whole lot of fun. Like a lot of people would have been laughing, and there would have been, um, more humor and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I mean, all in all, I liked it. I watched it a second time tonight because when I watched it with my kids, I was a little sleepy, so I missed a little bit in the middle of it. And so I caught that this time, and I mean, it was good. It was fun. I liked it. All the characters were relatively distinct, even if you take, but besides the turtles, they were relatively distinct. But like you, I like that all four of them are definitely a different character. In the 80s and 90s one, yeah, they were all a little different, but they weren't extremely different. Like Donnie was the nerdy creative one, Leo was the leader, Michelangelo was the fun party guy. But even in the one that was, the daily or the weekly cartoon, Raphael wasn't as angry
no.
as he was in other things. So like, and he's not technically angry in this one, right? He's just a little more like, let's mess shit up. He's just a little more
Almost,
feisty.
I think he needs therapy.
Yeah.
Like, like I loved it. Like it was
Yeah.
just he's missing a tooth. Like he also does, like, it's not like a ribbon, it's a straight up do rag with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so I
Yeah.
just distinction.
Yeah. So I just, yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. And I think it's good for kids. I think maybe not super young, only because Cube does throw in a few QB words in there. What my kids call no words. But like not so bad that it was terrible, but he threw a couple in there. Um, but like, so I'm sure if they're going to turn it into a series for a while, they'll just dial that back a notch and call that good. Um, but man, I really I did enjoy it. I like the possibilities that it opens up. It was a hell of a lot better than the Michael Bay live action ones. I'll tell you that right now.
I totally believe it. Small piece of trivia. I totally was an extra in one of those movies. My scene, like I didn't make the crowd shot, but I remember like just jumping into the crowd, just walking home. It was on Fifth Avenue. I loved that, like they even threw in a cowabunga for Michelangelo. I like the ninja rap, like little like
Yes, yes. Oh, I caught that one too.
Eastman High was a good
Mhm.
note. And then even like, I think as a sign of society progressing, right? So women character, sort of April O'Neil, like remember like the old April from the cartoon was just like super voluptuous and just
Yes. Yes.
like, so that was clearly objectification. I even remember like Rocksteady and Bebop using the word bimbo one time. I'm like, yo, that's kind of like
That's a little messed up. Yeah.
so the fact that they make her just completely desexualized and just like a regular chick, even though my nephew one time said you can't say chick. So right there is like that's progress, man. So yeah, I just
Yeah.
want
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, when you're, well, shit, let's see, that April O'Neil, I was what, 12, 13. So yeah, like, yeah, she was a cartoon character, but she's kind of hot. You know what I mean? Like, it was not, she was made for us boys at the time. Um, and this one is definitely safer for the kids, right? Like, we're not showing anything untoward or anything like that, because even in the Michael Bay ones, they used Megan Fox, right? I mean,
there you go.
and I, like I said, I like that she is not yet the full April O'Neil that is the hardcore reporter that's not afraid of anything and whatever. She was very flawed, just like everybody else was, but tough enough to push her way through. And she saved the day. She's the reason they didn't get completely milked, right? Like, she went and got Splinter, and she did. She's the hero in her own right too.
Because she jumps in the newscast, and I love that she still puked on national TV.
Yeah.
Okay? Like that was old me anyway. But it was great, and I just it made me feel good. Like it was so cool that one guy walked up to Splinter and was like, "Hey, man."
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just I love moments like that when when we appeal to our better angels, and I think
Yeah.
that this movie did.
Yeah, and I like the way with that scene too, the way they kind of still interspersed the flashback, right? Like, there's that PTSD moment. Like, he was really afraid that it wasn't gonna be what it was, and then dude helped him out, and and all that. I think that was great. I love Jackie Chan, so to have him in there as Splinter is a lot of fun. Um, I like I said, my biggest issues that I'm over, but that I had, is that, like, for me in the cartoons, like,
What was the original?
Splinter.
Yeah, talk,
What was it?
educate us. Like what was
Oh,
the original?
so, well, in the originals, through, depending on which story you go with, Splinter was raised by, in one iteration, he was owned by um an opponent of Shredder, like, because Shredder wasn't Shredder, he was just some dude that was a badass, and there was another badass, and he had Splinter, and so Splinter saw all this ninja shit when he was just a rat, right? Like, and then when he mutated, that's why he had all that knowledge that mutated. Then he trains the turtles. That's why he is in most of, even though he's the old, he's your typical old man ninja from your old things. So, like, he's super badass. He's just old, and he pulled that off in this one a little bit, but it's just, it was a different origin. And like I said, once you get into the story, it doesn't matter anymore. It's just nitpicking. So it's not really a big deal. But I it was definitely fun to see him in there. I like too that the kids were nobody. Like, all four of the kids that voiced the turtles were not
Yeah,
names.
so good.
Yeah.
Liked all four of them. I mean, I think the Leo guy nailed it. All four of them did. Like,
Yeah.
Andrew was funny. That again, Armin all the way. I loved Donnie. I think Donnie actually Donnie's the one I never really gave a crap about before this movie. And then Ralph was just like, he was just so sarcastic. Like, yo, you actually sound like a leader. Really? Cool. Yeah, yeah, you just ruined it. Like, it was just
Yeah.
like they all felt again fully fleshed out. Good voice acting. You're right.
Yeah.
Like there were no buns, but it was like, you might as well be somebody because I thought you could have been somebody.
Well, and it was nice that while they took those four, who are your main four, the four that you care about, were nobodies, almost everybody else was somebody, because it wasn't it Maya Rudolph that was the bad girl, and like, I mean, it was a good cast outside of
Giancarlo
kids.
Esposito
Oh
was.
yeah, it was Baxter Stockman. Yeah,
I feel like maybe he's not really dead. How do you cast a dude like that for someone?
for 5 minutes of a film. And it's a cartoon. I mean, you can bring anybody back in some way. Um, so we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it sounded like it's going to get a series, which I'm okay with, but I'd almost rather just get a second movie.
Exactly.
So we'll see what they do, or they do both. They do, a fun little crime of the week thing with, everybody, and then, part two with the shredder. So we'll see, because Maya Rudolph's character didn't get killed or anything. She's still out there doing bad person things too. So
much you could do in the high school setting as well, right? Which have they ever done high school stories before in
no,
Turtles? Or
because the turtles have never been out in the open. Like, even when they're known, they're not really known. Like, they're kind of a mystery. That's why
cool.
when the Bay films did it, I think it was the end of the second one where they out them, right? They have a big like press conference or whatever in the middle of the square, and it just felt so stupid. And in this one, it felt more organic. Like, we're dealing with this huge mutant problem, so here's our heroes, right?
Yeah. And again, it's like humans actually being okay with difference, like substantial difference. Like
Yeah,
it actually might hurt. I love how in the fantasy you hear a sign my baby, and then when they actually do make it, someone goes sign my baby. I was just like, I was rolling, like, so well written. The
yeah,
human was well done. So, anyways, yes, coming from a guy who's not a comedy dude, like, I loved it. So if you haven't seen it, head over to Paramount Plus now, and watch it. Let us know what
yeah,
you thought.
yeah. Definitely, I'm really curious to see. I'd be curious to see if there's anybody that didn't like it and why. I really don't expect it. I mean, looking at Rotten Tomatoes, that got 96% from the critics, 90% from the audience. So, I mean, the odds of people not liking it are pretty slim. Um, I would think some grumpy people with no kids might not like it, but then why are they watching it? So I mean, we'll see. I expect that most people did like it though. Um, and definitely, if you're looking for a good time, it's short. It's like an hour and 40 minutes, so it's not a long movie. And I think too, you wouldn't kill you to watch it, pause it, and come back later if you had to. So it's a good one. It's a good fun one, and very accessible. So yeah. Um, with that, did you have anything else?
No, I think we're going to what's
I'll
behind.
go. Yeah, I'll go into this. Um, I'll make it short because it's an interesting movie. So this movie is called No One Will Save You, and the premise is, you can see kind of right above my head here. There's little Kaitlyn Dever getting sucked up by an alien. So the whole premise of this film is it's an alien horror film, but not like Alien, in that regard. She is kind of an outcast, and it doesn't explain why. So it's what makes this movie really interesting, and really kind of creative. For as great as Kaitlyn Dever is as an actress, as great as she is at dialogue, just a side note, the first time I ever saw her, um, a few years ago, Tim Allen started doing his own sitcom again. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it was good. Like, I liked it. He was funny, and she was his daughter, and she was funny. Like, she's really funny. So she's dialogue is a what was
Keep
it?
on. Last Man Standing.
Yes, yes. And so, like, dialogue is a strength for her, and emotion is a strength for her. What's interesting about No One Will Save You is there's very little dialogue in this movie. So it is an hour and a half. It's not particularly long, but there's absolutely minimal dialogue. And the way that it kind of opens up, like she is an outcast. She's, the neighbors kind of give her, funky looks, and nobody really talks to her or anything like that. She lives in this house all by herself. Um, and so she goes through, a typical day or a typical couple of days, and, they kind of set the mood on how everybody, feels about her and how she feels about everybody and all that. And then in the middle of the night, she hears somebody breaking into her house, and she starts looking around and trying to figure out who it is or what's going on. And it's an alien. And it's not quite your typical like movie gray alien with the big eyes, but it's close. It's relatively similar to that. And rather than get abducted, she manages to defend herself and kill the alien. And the story kind of takes off from there. Like, she gets out of the house, she finds out that most people, if not all people, did not have the same experience she had. They did get abducted or whatever it is the aliens do. And so the rest of the story is her, effectively trying to survive what seemingly nobody else survived. But in this story, they also find ways to roll back and unravel the story as to why she is as outcast as she is, and why she is as introverted as she is, and the things that she went through. And they tell it all in such a unique and interesting way that it somehow doesn't require dialogue. Like, it's a really, it's a for me, it's a fascinating way to tell a story. I didn't love it quite as much as other people did. I didn't hate it. Like, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Definitely some of that comes out of just being a Kaitlyn Dever fan. I think she's great. I think she's like I said before, I think she's going to have a hell of a career. The critics gave it a 78%. The audience gave it a 61%. I think it comfortably sits right in the middle of that. So around a 70 is probably a good score for it. And I think, it has its flaws, and it's almost, in not having any dialogue, maybe that's a flaw in itself. But the other gotcha that you've got is it was made for Hulu. So that's where it is, by the way. It's streaming on Hulu. Some of the special effects aren't as special as they would be if this was made for the cinema. But it's not bad. And the aliens they're not all terrifying. Like, a couple of them are really scary, a couple of them are less scary. There's a few different like body styles of the aliens. Like, there's one that's like short, like a little guy, one that's got like huge long, like almost like spider legs, and a few different things. And the ending of it too is really interesting. And I think it kind of leaves a little open for interpretation, which I think is good in this movie. But yeah, like, it's hard to explain it without giving anything away, especially because there's no dialogue, right? Like, if I say X, Y, and Z happen, then 60% of the movie. So obviously it's a shorter review, but I would definitely say to go check it out. It's we're in that horror movie season right now, so it's the perfect time to watch it. It's definitely not the scariest movie. If you watch it in the dark at night, maybe it'll spook you a little more. But ultimately, I don't think that's what it is. I think it's a little more of a thinking movie, a little more of a movie about people and humanity, and how they deal with each other, and a little bit of an escape for some people. But it's good. The guy that directed it, his name is Brian Duffield. I don't know. Let me see if I can tell you for what else he's done. He produced Cocaine Bear. Oh, that's right. He also did he did Love and Monsters, which is one I've been meaning to watch for a long time. with Dylan O'Brien, and I forget who the girl is, but that one looks really good. And um, he also did one called Spontaneous, and both of those are actually well rated on Rotten Tomatoes. So he's done some pretty decent stuff. He also did the horror film The Babysitter, which the first one was pretty well received as a horror film. The second one was not. And I guess he also wrote Underwater, which was the one with girl from Twilight. What's her face?
Impressions,
Kristen
right?
Stewart. Kristen Stewart. There we go. Which I actually liked. That got a 48% from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes. But I mean, he's got a, looking at this, he has a decent track record. So I think he I think he's doing all right. This is definitely a departure from the other stuff that he's done. Just in the way that the story is told, but I think it's creative enough that it warrants a watch. Like, just to see, I think anytime you can see a story that's told in a way that isn't the way every other damn story is told, and it's okay, it is worth getting the perspective on. So I would say give it a watch, and if you hate it, then turn it off. You don't have to watch all of it, but it was worth watching. And like I said, if nothing else, get a little further into her portfolio, because I do think she's got a lot going for her. She was in Booksmart too. That was a really big one a few years ago. I think it was Oscar nominated. And then that might be it for like big stuff that people would know her from. Like I said, she's done a little more TV.
I think I saw Justified in her reel too, but that might have been like, a smaller
Oh,
role.
yeah. Actually, yeah, she was young and Justified, I think. And then Unbelievable is a fantastic show. It's her and Toni Collette and Merritt Weaver. And I think that show is really great. But yeah, that's all I can say. It sucks because it's really like all I can say about it without just completely giving it away. And since it's brand new and literally just came out this week, I don't want to just spoil it for everybody. But give it a watch. I know a few people that I know have watched it at this point and they've all liked it, so that's positive to me also. So yeah, do that. The only other thing that I've got is I don't really need to talk about. I watched The Breakfast Club with my kids this week since we've been on our 80s movies tear. They enjoyed that. They kind of laughed because they're like, that really wasn't about anything. And I was like, well, I mean, it's about interpersonal relationships, but like, if you think about point A to point B, they're in the damn room the whole time. Like, they don't go anywhere, right? It's really a
So yeah, to me, it's totally about like how you really don't know what the other person's
Mhm.
going
Yeah,
and commonality. Like I thought it was like super kind of profound. Like
yeah,
I those, but again, to be fair, I was like in a straight up high school when I
right,
saw it.
right. Yeah, well, I'm talking 12 and 15 here. So, they enjoyed it. The jokes were there and everything, but the larger um the larger meaning behind it was a little lost on them for that one. And then just to dumb it down for them, we watched Ernest Goes to Camp today too, to go back in our Wayback Machine.
I was in elementary school. Yes, those
Yeah.
are. Was that the
So
one happy together with the turtles, the snapping turtle?
yes, one of my favorite scenes. Like I remember that scene all the time, and I think up until today, I think it had probably been 30 years since I've seen the movie. So it
Not
was
same
fun,
because he is starting to look more and more like Ernest in his older age.
right?
Totally random, but yeah.
And then so yeah, that's all I've got. The one recommendation that Kim put in our chat that I'm gonna try and watch for next week I think she said it's on Hulu. It's called Theater Camp. It's not improv, but it's kind of got that improv feel, like something like Waiting for Guffman or Best in Show or one of those movies. And it's literally about a theater camp where I guess the woman running the camp, I don't know if she gets sick or passes away or whatever, and her son takes over, and he's a complete idiot, doesn't know anything about running a theater camp. And so it's kind of, about them trying to save the camp. And looks like a lot of fun. And then my kids pointed out that this week on HBO Max, it sounds like the Meg 2 is going to land. So before next week, I will definitely have seen the Meg 2 for what that's worth. I expect that to be horrendous, and I'm super excited for it. Was it I think it was you that posted the article from Neil deGrasse Tyson
Yes.
about how Armageddon is no longer the least accurate movie ever made, and that Moonfall is. And I showed that to my kids, and we were dying. We were laughing so hard. I was like, that's literally what I love about Moonfall, is that it's a garbage film. It's an absolute garbage film, but I enjoy it. Like, it's fun because it's bad. I forget. Whichever the Gerard Butler one was that we watched, that was terrible, and it was just like depressingly bad. And then you're just like, ugh. But at least Moonfall is just ridiculous.
Curious.
Like, even my kids, there's a scene in Moonfall where the moon's coming and you see the oxygen getting sucked off of the earth, right? But then when the moon pulls away, it's like the oxygen just goes back. I'm like, no, that shit got sucked into space. That's gone. But nah, we're okay. Like, it's great. So it's fun. So I don't know. Do you have anything this
Yeah,
week?
I actually, so some things came to mind as far as new releases. So Rachel Sennett, who is in Bodies, was also in this movie called Bottoms, apparently,
Oh,
which
yes.
on Amazon Prime, and I think Jen watched it. And so I think I might watch that
Oh, is
one.
that on Prime now?
Yeah, man, it just dropped.
Oh, I need to write that down right now.
Yeah.
I need, yeah, that looks hilarious. That has the girl from The Bear, the black girl from The Bear.
Okay.
Um
Yeah.
and and even funnier, as a football fan, and as I grew up in Seattle, so I'm a Seattle Seahawks fan. Marshawn Lynch is like the coach for their
So yeah, I
so
cannot. He's
yeah,
this guy, and I
yeah,
can't. He's showing up on camera. Yo, like
uh,
technology working as Marshawn Lynch. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. It looks hilarious. I did not realize that was actually available for streaming, so I'm definitely gonna watch that. What did I just see too? There's a movie coming out, and I don't think it's for a couple of weeks. Starring Sandra Oh and Aquafina. Oh no, here it is. It's called Quiz Lady.
Okay.
And so the gist of this movie is that Aquafina and Sandra Oh are sisters, and their mom dies, and it turns out their mom owes somebody, like a loan shark or something, like 80 grand, and they have no money. They have no idea how to get it. And so they're sitting there and they're having their moments, and Aquafina and Sandra are watching this game show, this quiz show, and Aquafina knows every single answer, just boom, boom, boom. And so they decide they're going to enter this show, and it looks hilarious. Will Ferrell's the host of the quiz show. Like, if you watch the trailer, dude, I was dying, and it was just the trailer. So I'm super stoked for that. It already has a rating, which is interesting to me, but I think um November 3rd is when that drops, so it's still got a couple months to go. But um I'm I'm stoked for that. It looks funny.
Speaking of November movies, so I also posted this release from Nia DaCosta, from the director of the
Mm-hmm.
Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Quote is, this is a Kevin Feige production. It's his movie. Like, she's saying, like, I took a back seat. And when I read that, I was like, okay, here we go. Like, you're just trying to like disavow like any responsibility for the movie in case it sucks. But as we were talking, I did like read that, out of context, it might sound like that, but she goes, um, I tried to go in with the knowledge that some of you is going to have to take a back seat. Now, she did do Candyman, the newer one, and that was
Yep.
cool,
Yep.
but that's a big departure to go from like Candyman to like the Marvels. So, I'm looking forward to reading the rest of that article. But I will say, I just thought it was interesting that, like, because Kevin Feige, actually, I was Googling, he said that he was praising her. Like, he was
Yeah.
saying, you know what, though? He also praised the shit out of Chloe Zhao. And I know that actually the three of you guys
I
actually
love
love.
I like the Eternals.
So
Um,
it's on.
my takeaway from that was less that she was passing the buck and more that she was kind of trying to point out to people that they're trying to get back to where they were, where, in the beginning, Feige was so hands-on with this stuff, and then it was good. It's on. I felt more like she was pointing out that that's what they're doing again, because when I see that trailer for the Marvels, it feels more like early Marvel than some of the more recent Marvel. Not super early Marvel, but there's just there's a more of a sense of fun to it, and a sense of like community between the characters. And I know some of that comes from even the actors, which is a big deal. When you talk about the Avengers, those actors loved each other. Like they all got tattoos together. Like they were a unit.
And he kept it small, but like,
Yeah.
Thor and Iron Man were there. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. And so there's articles out there about how um Brie Larson's like, she's like, I don't know shit. She's like, I play my character and that's great. But she's like, the person that keeps track of my own timeline is Iman Vellani. So like, and that kid is already, she's a Marvel royalty to me. So I think that's going to be fun. I think them working together and them getting along. I think that is the piece that is going to make this movie work, if it's going to work. Is that what's the other girl's name?
oh gosh, I know
Uh,
it's in my
the
tongue.
yeah,
Anyways, but
but
you're trying to think of the actor's name.
yeah. But if the three, like I said, if the three of them are getting along, if the three of them are between takes having fun and laughing and communicating with each other, um, I think that's what's going to make the movie better. I don't think it's necessarily going to be everything on screen. Um, and
Tiana
I,
Harris.
yes, and I hope too that maybe not this movie, because maybe it's too late. But I hope that they start to back off of the over the top visuals again, because we saw that with the Flash, and Ant-Man, and we saw it with Aquaman and all those films. And I think when you go just full green screen, I think you're putting yourself in a world of hurt. Um, there was an interesting article about the Flash and how the visual effects guys were like, yeah, that's not really what we wanted to do. They kept just telling us to throw stuff in there, and then they tried to mask it by saying, oh, well, this is how Barry sees it. I'm like, what the bullshit?
Yes.
I was like, come on. Like you're just trying to cover your own ass there. Um and yeah, I think we are in an age where our 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 CGI hubris maybe got the best of us, and we need to step back a little and do the practical. Because if you like, I've always compared it to Star Wars. If you look at the original Star Wars trilogy, explain to me how that looks better than the prequels when it was made, 20 years before. And it still does. I mean, it's funny if you look closely at the originals, like there's some stuff you could tell they just fucking glued together in the background, but it looks real, like it looks authentic. And what worked in the prequels when they first landed, because it was CGI and nobody was doing that, doesn't hold up now because CGI has come so far. And I think you've got to do practical as often as you can and make it good. That's why Alien that
So,
alien will never look bad. That they will show that movie in 100 years, and that alien will still look good.
like what's it called, 2001. I mean, that movie like had
Mhm.
me, maybe they did fake the moon landing. I mean, because when was this made? 69? Like, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think yeah, it'd be nice to see Marvel step back a little bit. I mean, I know when you do the Hulk, you're gonna have a CGI Hulk. When you do, people flying around, that's gonna be CGI. But when the whole friggin' world is CGI, it just starts to look bad. Like lighting doesn't quite work, and things just look too unrealistic. And that's what killed me even about the Aquaman 2 trailer. As soon as they showed the stuff underwater, I'm just like, God damn it. Um, because that's what got me in the first one. And then on top of that, that final battle in the first one, I was just like, oh, so yeah, it would be nice to see a little bit of a step back. And with the Marvels, I think it looks like they're gonna loosen up Brie Larson a little bit too. I think she's gonna get to be a little more fun than she was, because she's been so stiff in the MCU up until this point, and she can be funny. Like funny enough, me and my family are watching Community right now, the old episodes of Community, and she shows up in a few episodes, and just a few, but she just plays like a normal kind of nerdy, fun girl, and she's got personality, and she's fun to see and watch, and she was never particularly fun in the MCU, and I think that's missing from her. Um, so yeah, I'm excited for the Marvels. I am. So
I'll
yeah.
see it, no doubt. And Blue Beetle, I will actually. It's so funny because I feel like now, not quite the same as Black Adam, but I almost feel a certain like maybe I shouldn't have like supported it as much as I did like earlier, because like I have friends who are like, yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 10. Like, and like, well, only like you, he hated it not much. Like, yeah, it was terrible. I'm like, okay, fine, okay, but like,
This yeah,
yeah,
this says, funny enough, November 3rd, the same time the other movie comes out, is when Blue Beetle is potentially going to hit HBO, or sorry, Max. Um, and for me, I'm excited for it. Like I heard enough good stuff, not just from you, but from other people, and the things that I read, um, that make me want to see it. I that one I genuinely felt bad for. It was just came out at a bad time for DC. It's just the timing is not um it's
it
not
really
great.
have come at a worse time
Yeah,
actually when you
yeah.
think of it. I mean, it was. I mean, the last one was it not Aquaman? Was it Shazam 2? Was that the last DC? No, it was Flash.
Yes,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
like yeah, and Flash,
yeah,
and that was like the best they had. You
yeah.
know, so
Well, and then it was hard too, because all they hyped their own products so hard that it was hard to believe anything coming out. Because I remember when the Flash coming out, they're like, "This is going to be the best superhero ever made." Like literally, people were saying that, and I was like, "Dude, I've seen the trailer." I was like, "I know this is not the greatest superhero ever made. Maybe it's good. Like I wanted it to be good, for as much as I didn't like Ezra Miller. Like there are people in that movie that I wanted to see succeed. Um, but it wasn't a good movie, is what it came down to. So yeah, I will be happy to watch Blue Beetle, like the day that it becomes available for streaming.
I look forward to your thoughts.
So yeah, but cool. Yeah, I don't really have anything else.
Yeah, no. And I will. I'm actually feeling separation anxiety, all because I'm now going to be gone for 2 consecutive weekends. And I might fit in bottoms in between then, and then maybe you guys will talk about it, and then it'll be too late for me to talk about it or whatever. There's going to be Ahsoka's going to be done. Actually, I think it'll be done when I come back. Actually, like I think it'll actually the timing will work out there. So
Yeah, that'll be good to have that final conversation, and see what else is coming out. I don't know what's really coming out in the next couple of weeks. I might try and squeeze in I know Elemental from Disney actually landed on Disney Plus um, recently, and I never got to watch that. And I was curious about that one because it was in that stretch of time when it seemed like nobody was advertising their own films. Like Elemental just never got any advertising, and I actually heard it was pretty decent. So I'm a little curious about that one. Um, so yeah, we'll see what comes out. There's definitely stuff out there, and we're about to go through a weird time because um everything's about to start, you know, releasing their fall schedules, and we don't have a lot of scripted television.
October 6th, The Exorcist comes out.
Yes, the new Exorcist, which reminds me, I need to rewatch the original Exorcist. I watched it a long time ago, and I didn't really care. So I'm curious now if, you know, especially having just watched Rosemary's Baby and things like that, and having watched so many A24 films, that like my brain is kind of now in a place where that slightly slower pace works a little better for me. You know, when I saw it, I think I was probably 19, 18, and it was just too slow. And I was like, I don't want to watch that. I'd rather go watch Event Horizon, you know, and watch shit happen until it melts my brain. Um, so I need to check out The Exorcist again. But yeah,
God.
the new Exorcist.
No, it's just funny. So I said I wasn't going to talk about it. We're just going to glance over it. We're not going to talk about it. We're going to glance over it. But when in Foundation, when they find that big ass ship, I forget what it's called. It's like it's not the Titan, but it's oh my God, the Invictus. When they find the Invictus and they see all those dead bodies in the damn ship, that was giving me total Event Horizon vibes. Like even like it was like they mutinied, like, you know, or like just like all the fighting happened on the damn ship. It was creepy. Like I wouldn't want to, like, I mean, I guess you like they took the ship, they're gonna rebuild it and like have it, but it seems haunted, dude. There's a bad juju on that ship, man.
Right, right.
Like, but anyway, I just had to bring that up. But then you know what? I am gonna prolong a little bit. We're not gonna talk about it, but I just want to know like what you thought of, because I remember I think you said to me that the show ended on a bit of a cliffhanger, and I will say, can we do spoilers on this, or can we do
Yeah,
it
yeah. I
like?
mean, Foundation's in season 2, so
Okay, right. So what a trip to like meet your adult kid. Like your kid's actually probably older than you at this point as far as biology. Like it was almost like it was like Cyclops and Bishop, but not Bishop, Cyclops and Cable,
mhm.
X-Men world. So yeah, what did you think? I mean, yeah, let's just me and you talk about like season one really quick.
Yeah, I thought it was a trip because there were things in there as the story was going that didn't quite make sense to me because, you know, it sounded like it was from her point of view, but she should have been dead if this girl was from the colony that settled, which would mean she's 100 years older, give or take, some, you know, whatever. You know, she couldn't be just the same age. And then I was like, it doesn't make sense that she's her daughter because we never saw her pregnant, and they, you know, and they go through all this stuff. And then the way they explain it all, you're like, well, shit, okay, you know, and it just, I thought it was cool. I thought it's a trip. I think it's interesting that this is such a heavily like sci-fi show, but we have this little element of, is it magic? Is it, you know, something supernatural in there too? I think that makes it kind of cool. These two have sort of like the flip side of the coin with each other on the way their whatever it is works, but together I think they're going to do interesting things now. And their story is going to have to be interesting because they don't know each other. Like, yes, they're mom and daughter, but weirdly, they're basically the same age. You know, they're not really a mom and daughter. They're more like, you know, sisters, if anything. And it's a trip. And then you've got, you know, everything going on with the Empire, where that whole story took off because it seemed so innocuous for so long. Like you just thought like this guy was just a little softer than the previous ones, only to find out that not only was he softer, they made him softer on purpose because, you know, somebody did that. But then on top of that, the people that made him softer and thought they were so fucking creative were being played by the Empire in the first place. And you're just like, holy shit. So
crazy.
yeah, like that whole bit was cool. Like it's definitely like kind of a slow burn in the first season, especially. It's good and it's smart and it's all there, but when you get to the end, it starts to really just ramp up and just go nuts. And I think I think I don't remember how far I got in season 2. I don't think I got very far, but it definitely starts to pick up on some interesting stuff. And the other thing was, you know, it tripped me out because when I was looking up the stuff on IMDb, it listed, you know, what's his name is in like every single episode. Can't remember the actor's name off the top of my head, and I love him.
Harris. Is it
Yes,
Harris?
yeah. And they list him as is in like every episode, and he's not. And so I was really confused. And then when you looked at the episode count, it counted him in season 2 also. So, you know, I'm like, how
Jared Harris. Richard Harris is his dad.
Jared Harris. Yeah, there you go. And yeah, and now, you know, getting into season 2, he's definitely a presence again, you know.
Cool.
So it's cool, man. I do I definitely slept on the show for too long. I'm glad that I finally got the you know, got it in my head to watch it and get into it because it's really good.
Yeah, no, I same. And yeah, it was cool hearing your take on it. And I totally agree. It'll be interesting to see what the implications are for the DNA tainting of all the clones.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it also explains the difference in temperaments between like the current day and like the current Dusk, who was the day who pretty much started all this shit when he blew up all the damn planets.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love it. And you know, I said I wasn't going to talk about it. I think for the most part, I'm going to stay true to my word. But when you brought up that Horizon, it just made me think of the Invictus because that was some creepy shit.
Yeah. So yeah, if you haven't watched Foundation, go watch Foundation. You've got a little bit of time before we finish it, and then we're going to talk about it like crazy people because it's an awesome show. But otherwise, with that, I think we're good for the week. I have no idea who will be on next week. I'll have to figure something out. I don't know. I don't know if Pete's still alive. He pretends to. I think he's just a Chat GPT bot that replies to our text sometimes. You know, maybe I can get Jen to show up. You know, Kim or Andy, they're too busy out getting the nookie to show up. So, you know, no fault there. You know, Limp Bizkit was right, man. You did it all for the nookie.
I was trying to remember the name because you saw me doing like I heard it in my head.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. You know, if I watch enough, maybe I'll do one by myself. I could have done last week's by myself with all the crap that I watched, but it was amazing to me how much I had watched in those 2 weeks and then how little I watched this week. But
Balance in the
yeah.
four. I actually have a challenge. So for some of you out there who might be watching, I'm gonna say it, and I say it out of love. You know, what's up, Ashley? I see you, Melissanos. I see you out there. I called you. You should come on the show. Maybe bring Ari too. You know, like let's sweeten it up, but don't come on without me because I would take that personal. Leah, if you want to come back, you know, come through.
Yeah.
Like anybody else watching, you know, if you want to talk about a movie or a TV show that you're into, come on. You know, it's one nation under a groove, getting down the funk of it. No one
like I'm super open to that. And also, if by chance you missed it, we did do a special collaboration episode with my friend Jax, who runs a YouTube channel called Ravens and Writing Desks, where she usually interviews authors from in the gothic horror genre, especially from the publishing house that she is herself associated with, called Quill and Crow. All the information is in that episode, which is the episode that dropped before this one, but after the last official one. You can find basically the same episode on her channel. I made a few edits to the one that I aired on our channel, so you can find links to her books and her stuff in there, because I definitely want to help her out if we can. Jax is good people, but at some point maybe we'll do another little collaboration with her. That was really cool. Or if you're another channel out there watching and you want to do a collaboration, you like movies and television and books and other nerdy shit, let us know. We'll set something up. It was a good time. So, but otherwise, with that, I will say thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Deuces.